Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November Lunch and Learn. It's so nice to see you all. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Amir Alavi, and I'm grateful to serve as the Director of Chronic Absenteeism Reduction here at the Riverside County Office of Education. And our Lunch and Learn is a monthly free virtual event where we feature a school district or a school site from across the state. And we're very fortunate to collaborate. Right now, this is a collaboration of 9 county offices of education, including our friends from Butte County, San Bernardino County, LA County, San Diego, Nevada County, Santa Clara, Orange County, and also Shasta County. I just by way of introduction, so that we all get to know each other. I know we've got a very large group, but if you wouldn't mind, please putting your name and your position in the chat and letting us know on this Minion mood meter, what number describes your mood best? What's your Minion mood today? All right, and I'd like to introduce you all to a longtime friend and colleague, Sherry Honey, who works with the Butte County Office of Education, and she will introduce our guest speaker today. Again, thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you, Amir. Thanks to all of you for taking the time to be here with us today. These Lunch and Learns have really become a valuable way of us sharing across the state all the great work that's happening out there. So before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to give a shout out to our County Superintendent, Mary Sakuma, who's on with us today. Nice to see you, Mary, and thank you for being here. She's a fantastic supporter of all the work we're doing here in Butte County. And with that, we have invited Dr. Corey Willenberg from the Oroville Union High School District to present today. I've worked with Dr. Willenberg, who I have to just call Corey, for a very long time around attendance, school counseling. He was an assistant principal at the time. And I invited him to present to the group today because we often get questions asked about how do we impact attendance when we get to the high school level. And under his leadership, their district has done some fantastic work over the past number of years to really bring in those kind of supports and relationship building strategies and staff to really impact what they're doing in their district. So happy to have you here today to share with us, and I will turn it over to Dr. Willenberg.
Well, good afternoon and welcome. And I appreciate being asked to share what we do in the Oroville Union High School District. So I'm going to share a little bit about Amir. Can I share my slides?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, let's see. I apologize, hold on. So, the Oroville Union High School District, we are 70 miles north of Sacramento. And we're going to talk about information about the school district, our chronic absenteeism rates, our enrollment and our ADA, what do we do as a district, our SART process, our progressive intervention policy, our targeted case managers, and how we document what we're doing. And then I'll be able to answer any questions that you have. So my district is 2,331 students. For years, we were declining enrollment. The last 3 years, we've leveled off. So we're staying steady about 2,300 students. We have 5 schools, grades 9 through adult. We encompass 647 square miles. So we're a very large district geographically. We're 70 miles north of Sacramento. We're 25 miles south of Chico, California, in Butte County.
I honestly thought she was gonna be like, never mind. I honestly thought. And then, so everything good to go.
Thank you. So we are 73.6% socially economically disadvantaged, 3.9% English learners, 1.2 foster youth, and our major ethnicity groups are 48% white, 21% Hispanic, and 9% Asian. Our chronic absenteeism rates, I know that most high schools don't measure them, but when these first came out, I make sure that I talk to Butte County Office of Ed and say, hey, what are they? Because I think they're important. Because if kids are attending, that means that they're going to more than likely get a high school diploma. So in 2017, 2018, our chronic absenteeism rate, when they first came out with the indicator, was 26.3%. And we reduced it to 26%, and then COVID hit. So it was not available. And then in 2021 is 21%. So one of the things that we do is we try to measure ADA. And the ADA is going to help us with our bargaining unit groups and all of that, because we say that the teachers will tell me they are the generators of ADA. And I said, well, that's good. So we're going to share the data with you. So if you look in 17, 18, we were 1,941 in ADA. We had an enrollment of 2,354. We CBED at census date at 2,199, and our ADA rate was 88.3%. And that was just district-wide. I have, between the 2 comprehensive high schools, they fluctuate between 89 and 90%. My continuation and my community day school fluctuate anywhere. Community day school about 2%, continuation about 70%. So we raised it up to 1819 to 90%. We in 1920 we're 92%. 2021 is 92, and then 21-22 I don't have available right now. But as you can see, we've grown a little bit with our CBEDS enrollment. But what happens is a lot of our students are transient and our families are transient. So you look at our enrollment at 2,354, but our CBEDS was 2,199. So in 17-18. So what did we do? So we met and we decided we need to get kids to attend. And how do we do that? And one of the frustrating parts was that our assistant principals were doing the letters, and trying to work to get kids to court. And the courts, we had about 9 kids to court a year. And this is a long time ago, 24 years ago. And it was one of those processes that was a lot of work, and you usually didn't change behavior, because kid would go to court in front of the judge and the judge would say, attend school, and I don't want to see you here again, but come back next month and we'll look at your attendance. And we didn't see much of a change, and that was frustrating. So I had 2 teachers on special assignment that we said, you're going to address absenteeism. So they were helping monitor the letters. They were doing home visits. They were calling kids and go, why aren't you coming to school? And that was in 18, 19. So we did that for a couple of years. And then we've had contracts with the Butte County Sheriff's Office and the Oroville Police Department for SROs. We had our teachers on special assignments, and our admin conducted home visits. Sometimes we have kids that weren't there because they were transient. And so we would, then we would drop them. But my practice is that we need to have home visits and letters and phone calls to try to make sure that if a kid is not attending, are they still living in the district, or do they change, or addresses? We created a student achievement and attendance review team to address habitual truants. So we're looking at attendance, but we're also looking at achievement. And to get onto the SART schedule, you have to, the assistant principals have to do a home visit, or have to do the 3 letters, attempt to do a truancy mediation contract. And we use this as our SARB so that if we are going to go to court, we've worked with the county to set this up as a SARB so that we can make sure that people know they need to attend school, and tell them that they could go to court if they don't attend school. We're rewarding positive attendance with incentives monthly, by the semester, by the year. And then we're conducting home visits. The home visits are really interesting, and we're in a diverse area. So I always tell my staff that you don't go alone, because you just don't know what you're going to get into out there. And attendance is part of our LCAP. So with high schools, chronic absenteeism, we tie it into the conversations with our board in that we are going to write attendance and chronic absenteeism into our LCAP so that we can address services to help students attend school and address those learning barriers. So we've refined our practices over the years. So I have a social worker at each school site. That's with general fund money. And I used my LCAP to help get those into the general fund. We have targeted case managers. So our targeted case managers are classified employees that have training or expertise in working with kids and they're going to be the first line of defense with my campus supervisors if they blow out a class. They can go in to the wellness center. We have a wellness center on each of our campuses, and they can de-escalate those kids. Sometimes they just want to talk to somebody. Sometimes they get triggered, and a counselor or a social worker may not be available to work with that kid at that moment. So that's when we did the target case managers. So I fund 3. I have 1 at my continuation and community day school, 1 at my comprehensive, and 1 at my, or 1 at each of my comprehensives for 3. So they did such a bang up job. And this is only the 2nd year of target case managers. Each site said, hey, we've got some Title I money. We want to add additional targeted case managers. So both of my comprehensive high schools have 2 targeted case managers along with a social worker. 3 years ago, we adopted PBIS district-wide. We're safe, responsible, respectful. So we tie attendance, we tie responsible behavior into everything we do. And then last year, I added a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, for PBIS. So they're helping teachers do our social contracts, do training on PBS, and helping us with our interventions. So to make room, so you're going, hey, he has 2 TOSAs. Well, last year I added additional AP at each comprehensive to help with attendance and discipline and that. So I got rid of the chronic absenteeism TOSAs for this year. So I just have TOSAs for PBIS. I have So Oroville High School is 910 kids. They have 2 APs and a principal. Las Plumas High School, 1,281 kids, 2 assistant principals and a principal. And so we want to keep those APs. They've helped with safety. They've helped with helping us with the interventions. And all of this fits into our tiered intervention policy. So one of the things that happened is in 3 years ago, we were visited by the California Department of Justice, and they looked into our discipline practices and they accused us of being disproportionate in how we administered discipline. We had a high amount of suspensions for students that were SPED, especially ED, and for students of color. And so we had to enter into a stipulated agreement with the California Department of Justice that said, we'll report all of our data to Department of Justice quarterly. We will be assigned a monitor to help make sure that we implement PBIS and the social contracts, and that we refine our alternatives to suspensions. So right now you're going, hey, this is about attendance, but it's also alternatives to suspension, because if kids out of school, they're not learning, they're not generating ADA. So we've tried the in-school suspensions. We had a problem where teachers wouldn't accept the work, or kids, because the kids in in-school suspension would be bored, they would do more work in one day. And the teachers are going, there's no way they could do it. Well, if you're a high school kid and you're bored and you can't use your phone and you can't be on the computer, I'm probably going to do schoolwork. So it made sense to me. So our student achievement and attendance review team, sorry, I screwed up at the top of the slide, is composed of the superintendent. So I take the lead on attendance, because if it's going to matter, I believe that I needed to take the lead on it. I have my director of ed, and I have the assistant principal from each of the site where the student is being recommended to go to the SART board. I have a representative Boys and Girls Club. So Boys and Girls Club has clubhouses on both of my campuses. Some of the students that we work with, when you ask them what do they do after school, they go, I go home and play games, or I don't have any friends, or whatever. So we connect them with Boys and Girls Club. They don't have to attend Boys and Girls Club, but Boys and Girls Club rep will talk to the parent and the student, tell them the benefits of Boys and Girls Club. You're going to get homework help. We have all of these. We have esports. We do CTE. We cook, and they give them a free membership. And so that's been a really good relationship. A lot of kids don't choose to join the Boys and Girls Club, but I have about 25 kids at each of my campuses that are members of the Boys and Girls Club. And they really do a good job of developing students into leaders. So the team meets with the student and the parent. We discuss the reasons for not attending school or not achieving. Usually it's both. So I had SART this week from one of my high schools. I had 3 kids come in with their parents, both 10th graders. So in our system, they should be sitting at 60 credits, on track to graduate, on track to earn another 30 this semester. One had 5 credits, one had 20 credits, severely not on track to graduate. And so we start talking about the reasons for not going to school. Class size, they may talk about class size. They may talk about they don't get along with people, or I'm going to beat up everybody that's at school. So we try to find options. A lot of times it may not be a transfer. It may not be an alternative program. But we try to work with the kids and the parents to try to find the reasons why they're not achieving in school. why they're not attending school.
This is a webinar.
And a lot of times
Well, I want you to go over this with you, but
you,
I want you to get paid.
Yeah.
a lot of times the parents will tell you, I dropped the kid off at school, my child off at school every day. They don't attend a period. And I get all of these phone calls that say they're not attending. And so we try to work with them on that. Sometimes we sign a truancy contract. Sometimes they come to me with a truancy mediation contract at the site. So, but most of you that have dealt with truants know that sometimes the parents and the student don't show up to those truancy meetings. Okay. So sometimes we discuss an alternative placement. Being a small district, I don't have a lot of options with some kids. So then we monitor them, and then we make sure we document what we've done. So how do I get to start? Truancy letters 1, 2, and 3 are sent. Truancy mediations held at the site. Home visit by school staff, referred by the assistant principal. Usually we target 9th and 10th graders. They're the ones that we're trying to help get back on track to graduate, because we can talk to them about summer school. We can talk to them about tutoring. We can talk to them about a lot of things, services at the school, social workers, targeted case managers. So that's SART, but that's part of that's our tier 3. That's for our hardcores. But we have a progressive intervention policy. We do not have a discipline policy anymore. So our policy is designed to provide safe classrooms and healthy learning environments. Each level places an emphasis on being safe, respectful, responsible. And then we do our intervention plans, and we're refining our interventions as we go on every year. Admin meets every summer and says, okay, this is how we want to change it, because we've been tweaking it. Because we're in probably the 2nd year of this plan right now. So intervention, if that's at the staff and the teacher level. So we redirect people, counsel, student seat behavior, phone call home, parent conference, parent sits in the class. We use ARIES and SWIS to document the measures taken. We also encourage teacher interventions that are positive phone call home, preferential treatment. But one of the reasons we had issues with the Department of Justice is we were doing some really good things back in 17, 18, 19, but we weren't documenting it. And so when you look at all of our suspensions and expulsions, and people were going, you weren't doing anything positive to try to change those barriers. We were just not documenting them anywhere where we could produce them. So level 2 is the counselor or the social worker, or even the targeted case manager. They counsel the student. They do a reflection sheet. We do restorative practices. We do positive interventions with social worker. We do the front of line pass. We thought those were dumb when our monitor suggested it. Kids love the front of the line pass for attending or positive behavior. And level 3 is our hardcore. There are fights, they're stealing, dangerous weapons, all of those suspendable discipline offenses. We document those in ARIES in assertive discipline, but we also document them in SWIS. And in our SWIS data, that's daily. Counselors, teachers, staff document the measures they've taken in SWIS, and then they pull over into ARIES every 2 weeks. So we want to reduce suspensions. We want to reduce expulsions. We were probably 17, 18, we were about 1,000 suspensions between 2 high schools. And now we're less than 200. We were about 70 expulsions, 17, 18. Now What this year's been different. So we're sitting at 10 expulsions, but our practice is not to automatically suspend or expel a student. One of the things we've had success with, and my staff will tell you, it is the hardest thing that we've had to do, is a structured day. So what a structured day is if a kid gets in a fight, and it might be mutual combat, it might be whatever, but so both students might get a structured day. The structured day is they report to the office, their phone is taken, they are escorted to every class, and they're picked up by a campus supervisor or an administrator, and they're escorted to class. At break, they're brought in, and they have the staff gets them breakfast, sits them down during the nutrition break, and then takes them to the third period class. And then at lunch, we do lunch intervention. They have their lunch. We do a check-in, check-out, or a reflection sheet. And they may do that for 1 to 3 days. Now, we still suspend for fights, but that's one of the things we've done to reduce our dependence on suspensions only. So targeted case managers, they're in this equation. They work with our parents, both at school and in the home environment, to assist with problems. And it could be academic behavior. It could be health, attendance. It could be, hey, I need some clothes. They work with our social workers too, clothes, toiletries. We have closets for kids if they need coats, especially getting cold up here in Northern California, shoes. So we try to build a closet for each school so that the targeted case manager, the social worker, or school administration can help a kid get the things they need to be successful. We have the targeted case manager adjust their schedule a little bit, hey, and work at parent meetings. They work with school personnel to determine the needs of students to be served in the student study team. They attend staff meetings. They assist parents in accessing services, scheduling appointments, and coordinating transportation. Hey, I can't come to school because we've had to reduce, like most of you, reduce transportation with our buses. So target case manager can make sure that if the kid meets the criteria, homeless, foster, that we can try to get them gas cards to get them to school. They assist in making home visits. They provide classroom support, student observations, and they coordinate and communicate with the social workers, the teachers, and the administrators. So they're working as a team. And then we document everything in Swiss, and we use Parent Square to notify parents and guardians of absences, of behavior, of what's going on in school. So a teacher, we're not using Parent Square as much as I would like, but I do have some teachers that every week are blowing out messages to parents and students on what they need to do to be successful in class. So are there any questions on what we're doing for attendance, for anything that I presented? I know I'm a little short on time. I usually talk too much. So you could put that in the chat if you want, if you have a question.
Corey, there's a question about what kind of training the targeted case managers receive.
So what we do is we have them work with our social workers, and we connect with, we help them using county services and services through Chico State to try to learn how to work with students that are struggling. So it's not, but basically it's not just a person that's a para-ed. Most of our targeted case managers have college coursework and social work, or even teaching, but decided not to go that route and get a credential.
And really, they're working closely with your social workers, and a lot of that training comes from their expertise as well, I would say.
Right. And one of the other things I failed to mention is that, yes, I have targeted case managers, I have social workers, but because we are close to the university, I have social worker interns. So my interns, they have limited scope when they're a bachelor of social work, but they have a master's social work. We're going to use them a lot to do our group counseling, to do restorative practices and restorative circles. And so right now I'm lucky to have 2 interns in my district, and we have them working in alternative ed. So so we're trying to be strategic on where we place personnel.
Dr. Willenberg, I have a question. First of all, thank you for the awesome presentation. You mentioned that you have, I think, your truancy mediation at the school site level. Is that right?
Yes.
How does that work? What does it look like, sir?
So second letters are served. So we mail the second letters. We have school staff do that. And then students absent again, then the assistant principal makes an appointment to meet with the parent and the student and talk about their responsibility to get their child to school, try to address any barriers that might be going on where school attendance is not happening. And then they sign a contract. We probably have 40% rate of people attending those truancy meetings. Now, the ones that do attend, sometimes their behavior doesn't change. We have a lot of things, especially with high schools. Kids can hide. And so we have the phenomenon we've had the last couple of years. We've had it for years. I've been superintendent in the Oroville district for 12 years. We will have kids tell us, we don't go to class, we don't like that class, we'll go hide in the bathrooms, or we'll go hide somewhere on campus. They're on campus, they just don't want to go to class. So we try to find out why they're not going to class. And then I work with my campus security staff to get kids to go to class. And one of those things with the campus supervisors is sometimes you have to tell them why the kid needs to be in class, not just hanging out in the quad. And I had the campus supervisor about came unglued, told me, well, we don't send them to class because they just act up anyway. No, they need to go to class. And so it's working on that culture the class is important. Then we work with the teachers. You need to have engaging instruction. You need to make it worthwhile for the kid to attend class and not be late. A lot of our students, they'll go, I don't need to be there the first 5 minutes. They're going to take roll, or they're not going to do anything. So we instruct our teachers to have a bell ringer, to make sure that they use transitions. And I'm trying to get my assistant principals and my principals in the classrooms to help monitor instruction. And that's been the key of trying to work on attendance and adding targeted case managers and social workers, because we're trying to make sure that we can also monitor instruction. And we haven't been able to do that when we're just chasing truants all the time. A long-winded answer for that question.
It's a good one, though. And I think that's been one of the biggest shifts I've seen with your district is just this whole team approach. Everybody from yourself as superintendent down to your campus supervisors, your assistant principals, adding those targeted case managers, social workers, and everybody's really working as part of a team to really wrap around these kiddos. I went out to one of their sites 2 years ago to do a focus group with students around attendance. And what the kids were telling me was they will come to school because people like campus supervisors notice when they're not there, care about them, check in with them, or specific teachers who do that. So it was really that relationship piece that they talked about. I was on that same campus about a month ago for an all-staff meeting, and the principal started out the meeting, with the quick list of things they need to tell them. But the last thing he told his staff was, regardless of what you're teaching, what's on your lesson plan today, your number one job is to build a relationship with those kids when they walk in your door. And made it very clear that that was his priority for all of his staff with those students. So it's just been that real shift from that traditional approach we used to take to really wrapping around kids and building relationships and identifying those barriers, and then putting all these great people on campus to help support them.
And one of the other things we do is we load everybody up with T-bird bucks and tiger bucks and panther bucks. So kid could be recognized for doing something good with their PBIS bucks. And we have drawings every month. At our continuation school, kid gets a panther buck, they can trade it in for a snack or things like apparel. And so those are big tickets. And I mean, sometimes staff will go, why are you rewarding all this behavior? But it is amazing what kids will do for the PBIS bucks, or what they'll save their PBIS bucks for. And so I think that our team has done a good job of trying to make sure that there's value in those rewards, those PBIS bucks. Dan, I see you have a question.
Yeah, hi, Corey. And I know the messaging is really positive. I love the targeted case managers, by the way. You're stellar in that, and your framing, it's not discipline, it's progressive intervention. But the messaging is really important. Do you have in all this messaging, the restorative is restoring the health of the overall learning community, and telling kids it's not just about you, but you are so valuable to everyone else. Because a lot of the behavior, well, you've been bad, you're going to miss out, you're going to be harmed. They say, well, I can survive that, whatever. But I think when you say you're contributing to others by being there, is that part of the messaging? When students are absent, the first letter, I know Sherry in her first letters is so positive. Amir is. It's not that now we're going to get you if you're in trouble, but we need you here. Do you have some examples of this? Really, you are so important to us messaging that I think maybe transforms rather than the negative view, and how do you deal with someone who's been problematic?
Well, I think what we've done is done a better job of hiring people that are kid-centered. People go into education to work with kids, but some do it better than others. And what we've had to do is change the mind shift that our kids are awesome. And our high school kids, even though they come from poverty or they are kids of color, they still can compete in the global marketplace. And so that's a paradigm shift there, because sometimes they go, oh, Oroville kids, they don't measure up to the Chico kids. Chico's our biggest school district with 12,000 kids in the county. They also have a university sitting there. I have the jail. So they equate, oh, you have the jail in Oroville. So, but I'll take my kids go to Columbia, my kids go to Cal, my kids go to Chico State or Sac State, or they measure up. And I think it's changing that mindset. Now, my first letters, second letters, they meet the requirement of the law, but staff is reaching out and going, it could be a secretary, it could be assistant principal, it could be a target case manager, it could be a superintendent. Hey, why aren't you here? Why aren't you going to school? We're a small enough school district. We have people that come to me and go, I need help. I need help getting my child to school, and they won't listen to me. Can you help me? They do that with my administrators too. And so some kids don't see that they have value. And so it's us trying to work on that they do have value, and they are a contributor, and they are missed when they don't show up. And so That's my assistant principals and my principals are out every break and passing period talking to kids. They're in class. My assistant principal, we're small enough, my assistant principals and principals go, hey, I saw you, Dan, in class, in English class yesterday. Were you doing everything that you needed to do, or you were doing a great job? And so it's trying to get to know the kids on a personal level. Drives me crazy when I have teachers that don't know their kids. And we're in 100 days. I still have teachers and staff that don't know who kids are. So we've tried to move that to where they're kid-centered. They know all their kids. Assistant principals, they can walk on campus and go, hey, that's so-and-so. You might know their parent. And so that's how we do it. We're building relationships.
In your biggest high school, what, Las Plumas has 1,200 kids, you said?
It's about 1,280.
So they haven't done it yet this year, but the principal said that in previous years, they have done the relationship mapping activity school-wide. So they're putting all those kids' names up and identifying who knows these students, how well do you know them, what do you know about them, and making sure every student has an adult who knows that kid. So for a school that big, that's a pretty grand project to take on, but it was something that mattered to them enough about the relationship that they've done that before. That same school wanted to do the all-in days that we had talked about on the Lunch and Learn before, and I just got an email from the assistant principal that they don't just want to do a day, they wanted to do an all-in month, and the staff actually wanted to participate as well. So what's the staff attendance going to be over that month? So they're buying into the messaging as well. We're not just expecting it of our students, we're expecting it of ourselves. And that's been, I think, part of that shift that Corey's talking about, of getting everybody on board with this.
Even my lunch ladies want to do all school feeding, all the kids. And so we are part of the community feeding program. So we feed all the kids, but then beginning of the school year, we did some PBIS on minimum days, and then we had all school barbecue. This week, we are feeding every kid a Thanksgiving meal. So each school site, and my director of food service is spearheading this, is she's getting ASB kids to help serve. She's getting teachers and staff to help serve. And so we're trying to build a community. And it used to be my continuation school with 100 kids was where the community was built. And our comprehensives were not, not doing a great job of that. And that has changed immensely in the last 2 years.
Dr. Willenberg, you mentioned that your sites used, or your district uses TOSAs. Could you tell us, what does a day in the life of your TOSAs look like? How do you recruit them, and how do they help your sites?
I shouldn't say that, but I target people. I target people that are good teachers, that get along with kids, and want to do the work. So our TOSAs right now are, at each of my comprehensives, are my ASB teachers. And one teaches Spanish and one teaches yearbook and social studies, and then they do 3 periods of PBIS. And so they need to buy into PBIS, and these ladies do. I mean, they are having their ASB kids help us do videos. Both ladies also are my link crew leaders. So they get the kids, unionized basically about helping the underclassmen and doing things for the school. So with my TOSAs, being a small district, and my union gets a little upset with that, is I target people for that. Is that because I want to be able to do the work, and then we talk to those people, and then we use power of assignment. And that might be right, that might be wrong, but it's proved beneficial for us because I have the right people on the bus.
Yeah, it's being very intentional about what people are put in what places. Corey, your social workers are also doing some SEL lessons, designing that your staff do during advisory, I believe it is.
So we, with our stipulated agreement with DOJ, we had to do also do some assemblies on bullying, harassment, discrimination, and social emotional learning. So what we do is we only do it once a month because that's what I can get approved with my teachers union. That's what I can get negotiated. A lot of people are saying, hey, we need more. We need it once a week. So right now what we did a schedule, and I know Beaumont's here. We stole one of Beaumont's teachers. She's a principal at Oroville High, and they were using Character Strong. And so we've adopted Character Strong for the rest of the year and rolling that out once a month on issues for our students. We also do suicide awareness, and one of the partnerships we have is with Butte County Office of Ed, is they help us with social workers and counselors on the days that we do that, because usually we find that staff fall apart or students fall apart. And we did lose a student to suicide this year. And so my social workers and my staff said, we need to move that up, that training. And so we were able to roll it out really quickly. We contacted our partners at BCOE and Sherry and said, hey, I need some counselors and for that day. And they helped us out. Does that answer the SEL question?
Yes, it does. I just wanted to point out that you guys are intentionally doing those as well. You know, one of the things I'll mention with that DOJ report is a lot of people would have really looked at that as kind of a negative and a headache, and how do we sort of get this behind us and move on? And I would say that your district really looked at that as an advantage to make some of the changes you were already talking about doing, but really getting people on board with those changes. So as much as that was a headache, and I'm sure you're still working through some of that, I think what I appreciate so much about this district is they really embrace that as an opportunity. And a lot of this shift that Corey's talking about has happened in the process of addressing some of those things as well, which they were already putting plans in place to do ahead of time. But it really looked at that as an opportunity to push this work forward.
And it kind of gives you a hammer to do it, because you can always blame DOJ. Oh, can't have all my SRO contracts, but I've got to have more mental health services. And with mental health services, that was a big push by DOJ, and they kept sending me the Medi-Cal billing stuff. And they said, you can fund it with this. I didn't want to rely on a Medi-Cal billing stream to fund all my social workers. So we're using general fund for that. And then if the sites want extra help, then they can go through their site councils or use their site funds to add additional targeted case managers. But even though I have a social worker at each campus, I don't have enough mental health services. And so working with the county office and some of my neighboring districts, is we're working on trying to get some mental health services, even if it's contracting for 5 years with additional help, just to make sure that we are getting services to kids. Because if we can't get it on the campuses, and this is my opinion, so take it for what it's worth, and we're in rural California, so we don't have a lot of services in my community, is if they can't get it at school, they're not going to go do it. And so, and a lot of things happen on the weekends with kids. So we use Care Solace and those things too, to help get kids counseling services. And that's been successful too.
We really don't have the level of resources we need to meet the needs of our kids. So we are trying to look at some more of those, like Care Solace and the telehealth, to really bring in more of that mental health support, and to be able to do it on campus, because we know if it doesn't happen there, it probably won't happen.
Dr.
Any other
Willenberg?
questions?
Yes, so your student achievement and attendance achievement review team, that's sort of the equivalent of what some might call a SARB, your district level meeting and intervention. But I noticed that you as a superintendent actually are part of that team. I'm not sure I've ever heard of a superintendent participating in attendance meetings. I know that your district maybe is not as large as many districts, but in that regard, what would you say to your fellow education leaders when it comes to taking on a personal and hands-on approach to this work?
Small school district, so it's all hands on deck. Whether I may have to supervise a game or go teach a class during COVID, or multiple classes in COVID, or distance learning, I'm going to pitch in. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm too busy, because I want the work to get done. But if attendance is so important, achievement is so important, why isn't the guy at the top leading that charge? DOJ, our agreement, I lead the charge on that. I didn't give it to a principal or an assistant superintendent because it's so important to meet those requirements. I'm hands-on on that. And when we first started SART, I thought it would have more of an impact having me host those meetings, bringing them to my office, bringing them to the district office, giving them a letter saying you need to show up or you could go to court. So we scare them a little bit. And then trying to build that relationship of this is why it's important to go to school. And so that's why I do it, because if I'm going to say attendance is important, then I'm going to put my money where my mouth is.
That's very refreshing and inspirational. Thank you for that. Anybody have any questions? It's not often we get a superintendent presenting to us. Anybody else?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I know Amir was going to put my slides in there. If you have questions, email me. My phone number's on there too, I believe, and reach out and I'll try to help the best I can. I don't have all the answers. I'm like you guys, and I steal from wherever I can as well, because teachers, even when we're in administrative positions, we're teachers, and teachers are the best thieves around. We steal stuff because if someone else is doing it and it's working well, we're going to do it too. So please reach out if you have questions.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining us. You have the email with the link. That's good for the rest of the year. Please feel free to forward it to all your colleagues. The more, the better for our Lunch and Learn. And Dr. Willenberg, sir, thank you so much for your presentation and your time. And everybody, I will upload the video and put the PowerPoint in our folder soon. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a great day.